People of Reddit, what was your revenge on a bully? I showed this boy in my first grade class this cool rock I found, as I was convinced it was a moon rock. He asked to hold it to admire it, so I let him, and then he proceeded to launch it into the forest and laugh at me. So I did what I had to. I grabbed my chocolate pudding container and put it in the pocket of his sweater and smacked it so hard it exploded all over him. Even though I lost that cool rock in my afternoon snack, I kept my pride that day. No way, that almost how I met my best bud. We were 5, we both found a cool ass rock at the same time. He grabbed it first, so I went full pocket sand on him and it got in his eyes. I quickly grabbed the rock. We fought it out, then the next hour we were all good. Still good friends 20 years later, still got the cool ass rock. So I consider this an absolute win. Same, I found a rock that looked like a triceratops and a kid just grabbed and threw it, so I choked him out a bit and kicked him in the groin. Don't know how, but we became friends a few months later. It was like out of a movie. He was making fun of me and I taunted him back. He came at me and when he got close I put my hands up in a "don't hit me" position, but he slipped on a wet piece of wood and fell. That's not what the other kids saw. Everyone else saw him come at me and then my hands flew up at his face and he hit the ground. They thought I was a badass that decked him in the face. I didn't even get in trouble because the recess teacher saw how the whole thing actually played out and he got in trouble. We became recess buddies after that. That's the best possible way that could turn out. The ultimate win-win situation. My bully was my 3rd grade teacher. She was so mean and hit me with a book when I got out of my seat to get a dictionary when we were writing a story. Anyways, she tripped over a projector cord and broke her arm about a month before the end of the school year. I was sitting next to the projector and everyone said I tripped her. Instant street cred. It's the coolest I have ever been with my peers. Going to college and becoming successful. She bags my groceries every time I visit my hometown. I know it's wrong to take satisfaction from this, but I can't help it. Does she remember you? Do you ever remind her that she was mean to you? I bumped into my bully when I had an office job in downtown Chicago. He was working the register at McDonald's. I recognized him right away because he looked almost the same, just older, but he didn't recognize me because I was a lot skinnier and I also had a beard now. I have to admit I also got some pleasure out of seeing him working a dead-end job after years of tormenting me about my weight and being poor when I was a kid, but at the same time I felt kinda bad for him because he looked so defeated. In a high school soccer game, this jerk I was guarding kept sneaking in dirty shots, kicks and elbows, when the ref wasn't looking. After that had gone on for a while, he turned his back to me so he could receive a pass. He kept banging his body into mine, right behind him, to clear out space. I timed it just right, and as he tried to hurl himself backward into me one more time, I sidestepped and gave him a little shove. And he stumbled out of control, arms flailing, and fell flat on his back. I wasn't a very physical player, so my teammates who saw that were surprised. The best part was when some of them just cracked up laughing. Reminds me a bit of when I played lacrosse in high school. Yes, I am white and from the Northeast, how did you know? So in lacrosse each team has a goaltender, 3 attackers who stay in their other team's half, 3 defenders who stay in their own half, and 3 midfielders, who cover the whole field. I played defense, so when we had the ball in their end, I was pretty much an overdressed spectator. One of the other team's attackers was just a total dickhead and kept talking so much trash when we were standing around, and I just wanted to shut him up so bad. I finally got the chance as he was going for a ground ball. He had his head down to scoop it up. I got there about half a second after him, and he was completely defenseless as he stood up straight and I unloaded on him. Felt good on its own, but then he got up and pushed me in the back and we scored on the power play. Gave 3 guys a half ounce of weed to beat him up and tell him to leave me alone. They did. He did. Everybody gangsta till you give the boys a half ounce of weed. He destroyed my math project and pushed me down the stairs a bunch of times. I got his black belt taken away. Mercy does not exist in this dojo, doesn't it? Shanked him with my house key. As I stood up to walk off the bus he got up to stop me. I was anxious to get home so I was already holding my key, straight up stabbed him with it. Obviously keys aren't sharp so it didn't pierce any skin or anything, but I pushed it in pretty deep. Right below the belly button. All my weight went into it. I was 14-ish at the time. He was pissed but I caught him off guard so I pushed him aside and walked on. That's all there was to it. He didn't come after me anymore. IDK if he felt in it that I was willing to legit gut him. IDK. Beats me. Lol, nice. There was this black girl who used to always pick on me and my older sister when we would get off the bus. We just dreaded going home. One day she tried to give my sister a hard time and my sister had enough. My sister kicked her in her chest 300 style and she flew into the seat. She never gave us a hard time after that. It wasn't actually revenge, but when I bumped into the HS bully 35 years later, in his fluorescent orange town crew vest, on his break from collecting road kill, it made me so happy. Hol up, who TF collects road kill? My ex was emotionally manipulative. When we hung out he was always logged into Netflix with my brother's account because he refused to buy his own. After we broke up I saw that he was watching Breaking Bad. So we waited until he got to the last season and changed the password. You diabolical mastermind. I genuinely forgot who he was for a bit when he recognized me. He used to pick on me for a variety of reasons: growing up on a farm, not having enough money, not being interested in anything him or his chavvy friends liked, being a very outspoken tomboyish type, having a weird hairstyle, etc. TBH, I probably deserved the hair stuff. WTF was teenage me even thinking? Bumped into him years after leaving school, he recognized me instantly and was rather keen on showing off how well he thought he was doing. He had a lime green Ford Fiesta with big speakers in it, and thought it was the greatest thing he'd ever spent money on. He had enough money to buy weed anytime he liked, and was very proud to have cannabis leaves printed on half his shirts. He had a large collection of tacky, expensive trainers, sneakers, if you're American. He was telling me all this while I was giving very bland responses like, "Oh wow, that's crazy," and secretly thinking, who the fuck is this guy? Why does he recognize me? Is he someone's friend? Eventually he asked me a question I actually had to give a proper answer to, but was smirking weirdly when he asked, "So, what are you up to nowadays, Lemon? How's your life going?" Odd tone of voice for that question, but okay, I'll be polite. "Oh, I work up at big university, doing some middle management stuff in department. I'm just heading into town to get some bits for the kitchen, we're having it redone at the Mo." He looked kind of confused and mildly irritated at that, then was like, "Wow, your landlord's getting a new kitchen put in? Mine's not even fixed the shower for 3 months." He started looking sadder and sadder as I explained that I wasn't renting, I owned my house, was living with my long-term girlfriend, I came out as gay in school, and he used to tell me I'd have no chance finding a partner in the middle of bumfuck conservative nowhere, and was generally doing pretty okay for myself. He quickly found an excuse to leave. I still had no idea who I'd just been talking to and went about the rest of my day being slightly confused. Found him on social media the day after. He lives above his uncle's garage, who is also technically his landlord, and doesn't seem to have had a stable job since leaving school 8 years prior. His Facebook is filled with "Remember the time that thing happened when we was all 17" and "Remember what it was like not to have to deal with all this adult bullshit." Felt a bit bad for him, really. He'd always looked down on me in school, and that was just one more thing that had changed, and he couldn't do it anymore. Also from the UK, I can picture this guy you're talking about very accurately. We all know a few. Great description. Awesome that you're doing so well, good for you. We had a debate for class and I pretty much wiped the floor with him. Dude barely even practiced, plus I was the quiet kid so people expected me to be passive. Nothing is more satisfying than being the quiet kid who takes everyone completely by surprise. I say this as a fellow former quiet kid. I knocked him out with my lunchbox. I think he was being mean to me while we were sharing a woodwork class table with a bunch of pretty girls. Somehow, he got me removed from that table. He was lying about me being a distraction, and I got laughed off that table, cheeky smiley face. Before we left class that day, I methodically went to every table, offering to pick up everyone's sawdust, wood chips and shit. After that class, I threw all my lunch in the garbage and scooped up all the sawdust I could into the empty containers. As soon as school was out, I waited for him to pass me on the way to the bus stop, and when he did I pulled at the back of his shirt collar and dumped all the sawdust down there. When he turned around I threw what was left in his face. It was hot out. The sawdust stuck to his stupid, sweaty face and ugly, sweaty back. Worth it, though. All my friends and I, and hey, some pretty girls, too, laughed him straight into the bus. Not my best hour, but we didn't fuck with each other again and I am well adjusted now. I got to use a quote on her from Easy A that I never thought I'd get to. She used to interrupt when people were answering the teacher with "fuck you" name. One day she did it to me. I said, "I don't have any nickels, can you make change?" She responded, "The 90s called and wants its joke back," and I responded with, 2090 called, "You're dead and your life didn't matter." I was the quiet kid so this caused the class to erupt. Teacher brand new too so she could never handle this girl but even she lost it. I had a bully who'd call me Hitler only on the base that I'm Austrian, so asked out the girl he liked. She said yes and became best friends with his brother. Not me but my sister. There was this girl on the bus who kept fucking with her every day. No one would do anything about it. The other girl got off first and my sister followed. She put the fear of Satan into that girl, beat the fuck out of her. Didn't mess with my sister again. Got on with my life and let karma do the rest. He flunked out of college and has no social media accounts, seems to be either incarcerated or deceased. Gave him a stick of gum covered in laxative. He was out for 3 days. Not really revenge per se. During high school, the bully and I were both part of a group of students responsible for all the end-of-school life activities, yearbooks, organizing our version of prom, etc. We were setting up the assembly hall for our graduation ceremony. There were about 20 senior students running around as well as a bunch of volunteers from the student leadership of lower grades. Rather than doing any of the work, the bully just kept barking at the younger students as if to direct them. It wasn't his job to, nor was it even required, as they were just setting out chairs in rows. One of the other seniors told him to get off his ass and actually start helping, in nicer terms, but it led to a loud argument. Everyone stopped working and stared as the argument unfolded. I stepped in to curb the argument, but I was punched in the face for my efforts. I stood back up, smiled and said, "Now that you got that out of your system, how about giving us a hand with the setup," and smiled at the bully. The bully was confused? I think. Whatever the case, he left the hall without saying anything else. After he left, I sat down and let out a "OMFG, that bloody hurts," like the weak little nerd I am. A fair few of the kids thought I was being comical and laughed. It broke the tension and everyone could get back to work. As I mentioned, not really revenge, just a moral win over a bully, I suppose. Being more successful and living a more interesting life than all of them. My stepdad, for 2 weeks I swished his toothbrush in my daily toilet before flushing. Then, left a note telling him so before I ran away to my dad's house. Never had to return, lol. Living my best life. We got married. Put her number on Craigslist attached to a furry ad. This kid at my brother's middle school once cut the whiskers off of a cat's face with some friends and bragged about it. Cutting the whiskers off a cat is like torture, leaving it unable to navigate and sense things around it. The whiskers are incredibly sensitive. My brother loves cats. When my bro found out, he grabbed the kid by the shoulders and head-butted him as hard as he could, leaving the bully crying on the ground with a broken nose, blood covering his face. Afterwards, my brother was known affectionately around school by the nickname Head. And of course he got in huge trouble for it, but he didn't care. My friend, but at the end of the year he shoves his bully into a door and the teacher arrives as he is about to fight back. Friend didn't get into trouble. Bit the inside of my cheek and bled all over the margins of my Spanish quiz, then told the counselor what was happening when I was inevitably sent to her office. 2 of them were suspended for the rest of the year. Their leader was expelled. Turns out I wasn't the only one they were harassing. I'm in college now and sometimes I wonder if they cleaned up their act and are doing well, too. Talking to them about how they mistreated me. Ended up making them cry. He didn't get to be my friend, so his eternal loss. Not mine, but there is a vid of a fat kid that picked up his bully, flipped him upside down, then like pin dropped the bully on his head. Kid was a fucking beast.